Joining us now to discuss the legal issues surrounding mail-in voting is senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Hans von Spakovsky. Hans, good to see you. Thanks for coming on today. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Just give me your initial take of all this. What do you think of the Trump campaign's complaints here?
They actually have the right attitude about this. You know, the problem with, for example, pre-filling out the information on absentee ballot request forms is that makes it easier to cheat. The whole point of those forms is to provide some kind of authentication that it's the real voter requesting an absentee or mail-in ballot. And that's why they're supposed to fill in basic information like their name as it's registered, their address, etc. If all that information's already there, then somebody who lives in a house where maybe that registered voter used to live can fill out that form and send it back in and get an absentee ballot that they shouldn't be getting.
How litigious do you think this is going to get? I mean, you envision an election where nobody's happy no matter what the result is. How bad do you think this is going to play out?
Well, look, we already know it's going to be bad because there have been more lawsuits filed this year prior to the election, over 160 at last count, than I've ever seen in any election year. And I think what's going to happen is any state where the voting is close, the count is close, and large numbers of absentee ballots were rejected, as unfortunately normally happens with absentee ballots, you're going to see litigation contesting the outcome.
Yeah. You know, I was just going to say one of the interesting things is, Han, you actually have people on the right who are pushing back at Trump's strong stance on making this a big deal. Even House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, in an interview by Axios' Alana Treen, he said this to her: "I tried to show him," referring to Trump, "you know who is most afraid of COVID? Seniors. And if they're not going to go vote, period, we're screwed." This is what he told her. Do you think that Trump is making a mistake here, and this is actually going to backfire on him by making this such a huge issue, especially for his largest voting bloc, which would be seniors who might be afraid of getting COVID?
No, actually, like I said, I think it is a very serious concern. There's two things to understand about this. One, do you really want to be dependent on the U.S. Postal Service to maybe deliver your ballot in time? We know that they constantly have problems with that. We've seen that in all the primaries that have occurred. And second, people right now all over the country should be demanding of their local election officials to have as many of the precincts open as possible so that they can vote safely in person. We're all going to our grocery stores and our pharmacies. If we can do that, why can't we vote in person as long as they're following the safety protocols that everybody else is recommending for in-person voting and for going to our retail establishments?
Yeah, that's a good point. It seems like that we should have more precincts open than left than closed. But Hans, I also want to ask you this, because Mitch McConnell has come out and said that it's okay to vote by mail, that we should trust the system. If you can go in person, you can, put it in the mail, that you should trust the system. Don't worry about it. But I also want to say, back to your point, and the Dems want to give the Postal Service $25 billion for this, $1 million rather, and Mitch McConnell says, hey, we should give them money, only to $10 million. But do you think that this is a good standpoint to say, actually, we should give the Postal Service some money to make sure that this isn't an issue come November, and that they have the resources they need to handle the influx?
An influx of more money isn't going to solve the problems at the Postal Service, which suffers from bad management and a lack of reforms to make it a more efficient operation. They've had problems for years in the delivery of absentee ballots, delivering them too late, making all kinds of mistakes with them. We've seen all that occur, not just in the primaries this year, but in prior elections too. And a huge influx of money is not going to help that. The more people vote by mail, the more people are going to be disenfranchised in the election and have their ballots rejected in much greater numbers than if you vote in person.